How you doing, Seekers? And what I wanted to talk about today is the idea of sin and what it means, what we think it means, and what the real purpose of sin is. And this is just all from my experience, from kind of what I've figured out, and what I've learned, and what I've looked at in research. Because I'm like, where did this word come from? What does it mean? Now, we think it just has this meaning of, doing something bad or doing something wrong. But why did they pick that word? And very interesting when you do a little bit of research. I actually asked Gemini what the definition. And this is the first definition that came up with. It says sin, in its most general sense, refers to an act that violates a religious or moral law or code. It can also refer to the condition of being sinful or the inherent tendency to sin. What's interesting in that, that the second part of it, it's using the word to just define itself. It says the origin, the word sin has its roots in the Old English words syn, S-Y-N, which ultimately derives from the Proto-Germanic word sundia, meaning to stumble or to err. This reflects the idea that sin is a deviation from the right path or a failure to meet a divine standard. So, okay, but I had heard that it was something else. So I asked it. I said, doesn't it also come from an old archery term that means to miss the mark? And he said, you're right. It does. So and he says, while the Old English root sunja primarily relates to stumbling or erring, there's a strong connection between the concept of sin and the idea of missing the mark. In ancient Greek, the word for sin was hamartia, which literally translates to missing the mark. This comes directly from the world of archery, where the goal was to hit the bullseye. He says, this archery metaphor effectively conveys the idea of falling short of a divine standard or failing to live up to one's potential. So it comes from the idea of missing the mark. So, first of all, I asked it, okay, so what do you think the mark is? And he said, some divine standard. And I said, what's that divine standard? And I proposed, it came up and said, well, that's under for interpretation. I said, what if that divine standard is love? Simple. It's so complex. Just love. So to miss the mark would be anything that is contrary to love, an unloving action. That misses the mark. Therefore, that would be a sin. Makes sense. But when you look at sin as like this horrible thing, instead of looking at it, oh, I missed the mark. So, you know what? It's funny. When I think of these things, I think of it like, okay, I think we're in this cosmic school, and I think we've come here. You come here at the beginning of the term, and it's like the beginning of the whole school, and then you go through each grade until you get to the 12th grade when you're done. So number 12 again, and then at the 12th grade, you have now experienced all these different lifetimes and all these different emotions and all these different situations and all these different economic backgrounds and races and all that stuff. So now you're in this last lifetime. And in this last lifetime, it's like your knowledge is pretty high. Your emotional, your EQ, your emotional intelligence is very, very acute. It's because you've lived all these lives and now you're ready to put it all together. So and I went through this, so trying to get other people to understand this is like a 12th grader trying to get a first grader to understand algebra. They're barely understanding what 1, 2, 3, they're getting into the 1 plus 1, 1 plus 2. But now you want them to think of an abstract, you're going to put a placeholder that equals a number. Imagine that. They don't have they They don't have the experience to be able to make that relation. They're not to that level of cognition yet that they can visualize that. And that's what it's like to try to get somebody to understand. You can't. Just like okay, we're all in different parts of our different levels of journey. We've all been on it for different amounts of times. So you at one time did not understand this stuff, but because of what you've gone through, you have the capacity to understand it. You're ready to understand it. And now that you understand some of this stuff, there's more to understand, because there's always more. Now you try to take that and push that on other people. And I'm telling you, it's like we don't feel like we're pushing on other people. We're trying to get them to understand that X equals 5. Solve for X. They don't understand. And you can't force them to. They're not ready to understand. They may be in 3rd grade or 8th grade, but they're not in your grade. They're not going to understand. And that's why you pull away from them. You start pulling away from people because they're on a different wavelength. You are graduating. You are done. You have done the work. Now you got to put it all together. Now you got to understand it. You got to get it in your mind. Understand it. You got to bring all that stuff up from the past. Understand what you went through in this lifetime, because that's what this lifetime is about. This one here is about, it's like putting it all together. So you get little tastes of terror, little tastes of horror, little tastes of, but it's not for long. It's enough to where it's like you remember it. Your soul remembers it. It understands. It's like, oh, I remember what that is. So you're ready. So back to sin. Sorry, I deviated a little bit there, but it's really important to understand that. The darkness defines the light. In this lifetime, you have to experience sin, because the feeling that you get when you know you have messed somebody up, you have shit on somebody, you have violated them, you have violated love, you've missed the mark, and you know it, and it weighs heavy on you. But now you know what the light is. You know it to your core, your being. You feel it. You don't just know it in your head. You feel it. Holy shit, this is not the light. Sin is a necessary thing. You have to go through it. That's why you don't stay in sin. You don't stay in the same thing. You have to go through it, not stuck in it. Through it. You have to shit on somebody and then get shit on. Boom, I know both sides now. I know how it feels to shit on somebody. In the moment, okay, made sense. Afterwards, now you feel how shitty that was. You can't teach somebody that. Nobody could teach you that. You had to go through it. You had to feel it and experience it. Now you know it. You know that's not the light. You know it. And every time you take a little dip back into that and do something like that, you know it. That's the difference. They don't know it. They're not ready. These other people, and I don't want to say other people. It's just because we're all going to be here eventually. That's what this is. It's like, it's not like, this like, see, that's the thing that have a problem with religion. It's like the one shot. Done. You're done. You didn't finish the time? Well, tough shit. You're done. No, come on. That means everybody else is on the same path, different grade. You can't look down on other people like you're above other people. You're not. You're just graduating. You're getting ready to finish up. You know what they're going through because you've been there. I get it. I understand. And man, you want to fix it. You want to help, and you can't. You can make yourself available. You can help lift the burden a little bit, but you can't carry that burden for anybody. That's all we're allowed to do. Everything else is self-destructive. It's a hard thing to learn, but we learn it. Hopefully, no, we learn it. Anyway, so I just wanted to this is from what I've learned, and so to me, it's like, I get it. Sin is not something to be like. It's just a word for actions, like a group of actions. One that is loving and one that's not. That's all it is. Not good and bad. It's all good. In the end, it's all good. Anyways, thanks for listening, Seekers. Take care.